What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with some more news. Now, SummerSlam is over, but the WWE has less than a week to build its next pay-per-view, Payback. Yeah, building a whole new pay-per-view in just a week. So you might have expected Raw to be a little crazier than usual, but did it deliver? Well, join us now as we analyze the 24th edition of the Red Brand, and we look at the wildest wrestling news stories and rumors you need to know, including what Vince thought of Dominik's debut, why we can't ever have anything nice in WWE, Shaquille O'Neal in AEW, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Now, as always, we won't waste your time recapping the matches, but we will take a look at the good, the bad, and the downright ugly from last night's show. As always, we start off with the good as number 1, Retribution Rising. Retribution struck hard at Raw, taking out Rey and Dominik Mysterio and finally making a strong message that they are a potential threat to the entire WWE. Poor Rey and Dominik, they've really not had a good 2020, have they? Up until recently, Retribution's appearances have been laughable, with the group looking like a bunch of young teens, both literally and figuratively, enjoying their first adult beverage and vandalizing the local playground. Now that Retribution is attacking wrestlers and doing so with members who look like wrestlers and not high school freshmen, things could definitely start getting interesting. Number 2, Aleister Black turns heel. Aleister Black's heel turn was one of Raw's best segments, not because of how it was carried out, but because it's been a long time coming. Aleister Black is too good a performer to be jobbing to Seth Rollins and his ministry every week, and a heel turn seems to fit Black's character better. There's just something about the Dutch Destroyer that screams heel, and while it would be easy to put Black into Seth Rollins' ministry, he's got too much potential to be a henchman and should be able to get over on his own. Number 3. A fast build-up. Now, with Payback just literally days away, the WWE is already doing a good job building up the show, revealing several big matches and promoting them well on Raw. The idea of running a pay-per-view one week after another may not be a great idea, but they deserve credit for promoting it well by announcing several big matches already. Number 4. Impromptu, but interesting. It looks like Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax are now a team. That's even after Shayna Baszler called Nia Jax Haystacks Calhoun. So that was funny. But they've now joined forces to take on the Golden Role Models at Payback for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship. While the tag team seems like something they just threw together, that's not necessarily a bad thing, as both women are tough as nails and could be a formidable team. Especially if Nia Jax doesn't accidentally injure any opponents. Sometimes an impromptu pairing can lead to lasting success. Few fans would have thought that the Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross tag team would have much staying power, but the two ended up blending into one of the highlights of the women's tag team. But that was the good. What about the bad? Is number 1, a questionable debut. The WWE's handling of Keith Lee's debut was about normal for an NXT call-up, which is to say mundane at best. Lee's new outfit and music didn't help, and while his promo on Randy Orton was great, Lee's promos are not the type fans are used to hearing, and for some people it may take time for the fans to get into the promos. But altogether, Lee's debut wasn't the grand slam it could have been, or even a home run. Putting him up against Randy Orton was a smart move, but they need to work quickly to ensure that Lee doesn't fall by the wayside like so many other NXT call-ups. As we'll see later in the news, Vince has big plans for Lee, but things could change if he doesn't get over. Number 2. Nobody loves Rey or Dominik. Rey Mysterio has been in the WWE for a long time as a babyface, so where were his friends when Retribution jumped him and his son at the end of Raw? While it's great to see the WWE raising the stakes with Retribution and have them run in on matches, it didn't make sense that no one came out to help the Mysterios. Small details like this can make or break an angle, and the WWE has a potentially powerful plot with Retribution if they take the time to make it work. Number 3. The Bachelor, Raw Edition. As good as Raw was, and it had a lot of momentum thanks to the fantastic SummerSlam show, this week's segments with Ivar and Demi were cringeworthy. The WWE's portrayal of Ivar as an unlikely ladies' man was funny the first 1 or 2 times around, but in typical WWE fashion, the joke has quickly been run into the ground. Number 4. Natalya and Lana equals awful. Lana has an unfortunate knack for go-away heat, and her pairing with Natalya has only made things worse. Lana can play a good heel in certain situations, as seen during the Bobby Lashley-Lana Rusev love triangle story, but she tends to get over the top, and Natalya is doing nothing to rein in Lana's obnoxious qualities, instead amplifying them and making fans want to change the channel. Number 5. Meandering Mickie. Mickie James's Raw return continues to crumble, with this week's segment between her and the dull duo of Lana and Natalya failing to impress. Granted, James shouldn't be blamed, as she's making the best of an entirely bad situation that includes lackluster writing and zero apparent effort to get anyone over. Number 6. Raw Underground. What's the point? We're several weeks into Raw Underground, and it's still just unclear what the purpose of the show is, other than for wrestlers to beat each other and jabronis up. From a storyline perspective, it makes no sense why WWE superstars would want to participate in the unsanctioned fights, or why the WWE would want them getting hurt in a storyline. Now, we're not saying that Raw Underground is an idea with rich storytelling possibilities, but right now it's a complete waste of time. Give it some direction and see what happens. Now, there was nothing quite downright ugly of last night's show, but Raw was a somewhat disappointing show considering it followed a sensational SummerSlam. They have a number of strong storylines to follow up with, as well as the debut of Keith Lee, but nearly everything fell flat. It wasn't that Raw was a bad show, it was just that it failed to capitalize on an excellent pay-per-view and reminded fans of the WWE's inability to air consistently entertaining shows. But what did you guys think of Raw? Let us know in the comments down below. Now, let's move on to the news, as our first story looks at Vince destroying the Raw script. And despite a strong SummerSlam show, Vince McMahon was back to his usual tricks at Raw, micromanaging the show. PW Insider's Mike Johnson reported WWE pretty much ripped up the entire show around 7:20 PM, and is told that Vince McMahon arrived at the taping around that time, and at that point began changing just about everything that was planned. Whether you liked the latest Raw or hated it, there's only one person who gets the credit or the blame. But whilst we're on the subject of Vince McMahon, what was his opinion of Dominik's debut? Well, according to Ringside News, it looks like Dominik's debut was very well received. Vince McMahon was super impressed with Dominik Mysterio at SummerSlam. This sentiment extended past the chairman's opinion too. I was told to us by a member of the creative team close to the situation that everyone was impressed by Dominik's performance. This is a very good sign for him, as he just got started in WWE. Dominik could have a big career ahead of him if he continues to improve in the ring and is able to get over with the WWE Universe. Next up, is Shaq All Elite? It looks like NBA legend Shaquille O'Neal could be headed to AEW to face Cody Rhodes. The Athletic is reporting O'Neal signed a new deal with Warner Media, and said deal could see Shaq step into the ring against the American Nightmare. O'Neal told The Athletic, "I'd love to fight Cody. Write it, print it, text it to him, call AEW up and tell them." This wouldn't be O'Neal's first time in the squared circle, as he's appeared in the WWE, including the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal at WrestleMania 32, WCW and TNA. A planned Shaq vs Big Show match never materialized due to Shaq claiming on his own podcast that the WWE played games, scheduling and rescheduling the match until he finally had enough. Next up, Vince is looking to push Keith Lee hard. Keith Lee looks to be getting a major push since debuting on Raw, beginning with a program against Randy Orton. Now, according to Sportskeeda, Vince McMahon was profoundly impressed after his performance at Survivor Series last year. That also led to a spot at the Royal Rumble where Brock Lesnar put him over. The latest backstage reports now suggest that there's reportedly a plan in place that would see Keith Lee turn heel in the future. WWE want to pull off that turn in his gimmick in order to feud with a top babyface of the Red brand. The top babyface on the Red brand right now is Drew McIntyre, so could we see a WWE Championship match for Keith Lee in the future? And finally, WWE can't have anything nice. The WWE's virtual fans have added a much needed crowd presence to the promotion shows, but unfortunately a few people are trying to ruin a good thing. Despite the WWE establishing rules on acceptable behavior, such as not promoting other wrestling organizations, fans have flouted the rules. You may recall we noted a fan posting a Fire Velveteen Dream message at SummerSlam, while another posted an image of the beloved Pokemon character Pikachu. However, the 24th August Raw saw some downright tasteless hijacks, as one person posted the last picture of Chris Benoit ever took before the events of 24th June 2007. There was also another Chris Benoit picture posted, that of his face. Another individual posted a video from what appeared to be a Klan meeting, although some say it's an image of Chris Jericho when he played a Klansman in a movie. Now, it'll be interesting to see how the WWE attempts to combat these virtual vandals, but this could lead to the WWE asking for payment before they put these fans online. Hopefully that'll stop any vandals in the future. But there you have it guys, the good, the bad and the downright ugly from the 24th August Raw, as well as the wildest wrestling news stories and rumors you need to know. Be sure to leave your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Facebook for exclusive lists, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.